going into January or February, one of the two, it seems we're going to get Dunk and Egg season 1, but not just Dunk and Egg season 1. We've actually been confirmed that season 2 and 3 have been approved, and they're going to be filming back to back. So we're going to have Dunk and Egg in 2026, 2027, and 2028.
Yeah.
This is huge. This is great.
Big deal. I got it pulled up here. This is Westeros, who's, they're definitely like the best, I think, any Song of Ice and Fire news. HBO's Night of the Seven Kingdoms has reportedly been renewed for seasons 2 and 3. Each season will reportedly consist of 6 30 to 35 minute episodes. Season 1 is currently set to premiere in early winter 2026.
So this is really big news. It kind of confirms a little bit what you and I have talked about, is that obviously we thought it would be an abbreviated type of show. And I actually think that 35 minute time is perfect for the story that's told in Dunk and Egg, because if they're going to base most of it off the source material, there's not a ton. You could expand on some of the characters for sure, and you're going to get non-Egg and Dunk POVs, right? Like you might sit there with one of the Targaryens, possibly, or Tansy Tutal or something like that, but you probably aren't going to see like a ton of additional storylines being added. I don't think that's a bad thing, Matt.
No, I don't either. I actually think it's great. I think the 30 to 35 minute episodes, a lot of shows have done that, right? And that doesn't mean that we won't get an episode here and there that's bigger. This is the end of season 1 when we get to the big battle. Maybe that the big actual tournament fight, that might be slightly longer. But it's really only like one kind of fight. So I don't know that it necessarily needs to be like that. But that doesn't mean that in seasons 2, where there's another kind of big fight, even though it's a little, smaller scales. But season 3, that's where you would have kind of a big fight when like Blood Raven shows up and everybody shows up, and when Egg is kidnapped. That could be at White Walls. That could be a big deal. Right. Yeah. So that doesn't necessarily mean we won't get bigger seasons and stuff like that. And you and I are actually going to record a Patreon episode where we're going to dive like deep into like what we think about like seasons, 4, 5, 6, right? If we get there. So stay tuned for that too, because that's a whole big question of what if this show is super crazy popular, where is it going to go? But just at least on this news here and the 30 to 35 minute mark, I actually think it's perfect, because we've talked about this before. The source material itself is not particularly long. If you listen to the audiobook, the entire audiobook for the whole series, the whole trilogy of books, is like 10 hours.
I mean, we don't want Hobbit movies thing.
Yeah, it's like an hour and a half, like as it's done in chapters. It's like part 1, part 2, and it's like 3 hours. So that is quite literally what this will be. Right. I mean, that's like line for line. The audiobook is 30 minutes, Yeah.
And the scope is more narrow of this show. This is a much more focused, quieter show. And I've told you, and I know everyone's probably tired of hearing me say this because I'm being pessimistic, but I do worry about the general audience's understanding of that. And I just today looked at responses for the announcement, and the first like 10 things was just like, this is horse shit. This show's going to suck 30 minutes. They blew it before it even started. I'm not watching. And I'm just like, dude, like, how can you say it's nothing like House of the Dragon? It's nothing even really like Game of Thrones. Of course, it's in the same world. There are similarities, but it's a very different type of story. I guess it's a little bit more evident in the written form, though, right, Matt? Like, you can literally look at the collection of 3 stories compared to a Game of Thrones and realize that it's, a fraction of that story, but it's still a complete story that's being told. So I don't know. I think this is great. Remember whenever I was talking about The Pit, I said we need shows that are 30 to 40 minutes and that come out every year. This is that. This is exactly that.
And it's great. And I love it, because like, especially season 1, and that doesn't mean that seasons 2 and 3 won't be longer episodes
if they need it. They might not even need it,
right? Like The Mandalorian, I think, is a great example of that, because there are episodes that are your like traditional like 23-minute, old school 23-minute episodes, right?
Snappy.
Which if you were watching on TV, like if you go back and watch like Friends and all those big shows in the 90s, they're all like 23 minutes. There's really not a ton of content there, because you had commercials which filled it out to half an hour. But I mean, 30 to 35 minutes actually isn't terrible, as long as there's not a bunch of filler, because you just can't please everyone, right?
No,
like that was with House of the Dragon. It's like, man, there was so much filler in the back half of that. We want action. We want this. Like, well, maybe that's what they're doing, is they're keeping it more concise, right? I mean, this show will have a little bit of action here and there because they're at a tournament. Dunk gets into a fight. I mean, that's probably episode 3, right? Episode 4 when that's going to take place.
Probably 3, maybe.
What we won't probably get a lot of in this show is lore dumping.
No. You're going to be introduced to the characters, episodes 1, 2, maybe not even 2, and then we're going to get right into the conflict. The thing about a short story is, and I know they're novellas, but to me they're short stories, is that you have to get in, up, down, and out. That is it. Like, you have to do those things. Now, there are short stories that are a page long that are much different than that, but I'm just saying for the general purposes of a general story, that's how you would do it. And that's how the TV show is going to be as well. That doesn't mean that it's going to be too fast paced or anything like that. They're looking at what they have scope wise to deal with. And they're saying, yeah, 30, 35 minutes we can do. And I think so. Yeah. 3 or 4 hours for a season of Dunk and Egg. That feels good to me. And I saw a lot of people being a little bit apprehensive saying, oh, how are they going to turn book 1 into 10 episodes? And people were really like upset about that. And then you see people being upset that it's short now. And I'm like,
we thought they were going to be like an hour long. And we were like, man, I don't know that you can stretch that. To 6 hours.
We said an hour long for 6 episodes would have been too much for the story that we know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm all for it. I think it's going to be good. And the other thing is it's like in some cases, it's like when anybody who does YouTube, right? This is like the lesson 1 of like learning YouTube videos and all this other stuff. And I remember this is like literally like the first thing I ever looked at when I started editing. And someone said, if you have a good 10-minute episode, like you probably have a great 7-minute episode.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. And so like less is more. And now look at the way we consume content. The way we consume content now is like, man, it's tough. And I do shorts like for a living. I do shorts like all day long. That's all I'm creating. And I can tell you, I've actually switched from doing like a minute. You have to on TikTok to earn money. You have to go over a minute. And what I've actually, and I now I'm like, well, it's not even worth it anymore. So now I'm only doing like 45-second clips.
Yeah.
And the watch time goes through the roof because now it's a higher percentage and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I mean, it's where we're at as a society. Our attention is getting, smaller too.
It is getting smaller, but I also will say there's trends. Things come and go. We have done the epic television since Game of Thrones and everything that has followed it. I think a reduction back down is natural in some ways for television. I'm speaking strictly about television. And I think that's why The Pit was such a breath of fresh air for you and I. Like, we were just like, oh my, this is exactly what we've been dying for. And another thing, if you look at the entire project of Dunk and Egg, this is not a show. There is not enough stakes and epicness in Dunk and Egg to wait 2 years between seasons. This show fails with that. House of the Dragon, we can always say, well, there's going to be CGI, there's going to be these big battles. It's going to be worth the wait. I think Dunk and Egg waiting 2 to 3 years between a season is just would be unacceptable for how personal of a story it is.
Yeah.
So it's dumb. I don't want to say dumbed down, but it's concise so they can do it yearly, which this show I think will benefit greatly from.
Yeah, and it's not that big of a story. I think that's not. That's the difference. I mean, that's the biggest difference, right? Yeah. Like in Game of Thrones, even like season 1, which is probably the most book accurate season. I mean, so many of the lines are just straight dialogue from it. I mean, literally, you go back and you look like you're reading the paragraph, and that's what they're saying.
So good.
But that's a full novel. You're trying to cram into 10 episodes. This is totally different. This is the entire audiobook is 10 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, if you listen to the audiobook, it's like 3 hours, 3 hours, 3 hours. So it's like 9 hours. Well, 30, let's do the math here, Jimmy, right? 30 times 6 is what? 2 hours? 3 hours? Hour and a half? Yeah, dude. I mean, it's like you're barely cutting anything. You're pretty much just telling the story as it is.
Which it could be really good. And I do think that the stories will make for good television. Maybe not the epicness that some of the more general audience wants, which is the concern. But I think all this is good news. That's what me and Matt are trying to say. We saw this and we were both delighted. Like, we were like, this is exactly what we were kind of hoping for out of this. We didn't want a ton of stretch. I think that this is going to be as tight as possible, which in today's age is a good thing.